So if you were to ask me to name different people that I wish I would have met before they passed away, I don't know of many I could name quickly off the dome. When it comes to celebrities, one of the few easy choices would have been Robin Williams. Just such a larger than life presence, inspirational to many, but unfortunately he harbored this darkness that he hid incredibly well, and that made today's watch even harder to think through. So welcome to the entertainment room, where today I, for some reason, chose a darker path and am making my first Robin Williams movie review. Not one of his iconic comedic films, but arguably one of his best dramatic performances. And that film is 1 Hour Photo. Directed and written by Mark Romanek, the story follows Seymour, or Cy Parrish, a disturbed photo developer who formed this unhealthy obsession with a family that often visits him in his store that he works in, and he wants to get closer and closer to them. And roles like this truly highlighted Robin Williams' versatility as this character, because this character had this bright charm that could just switch up in an instant, and he was an easily funny actor who could go big with his delivery, but also could just expertly reel all that in to give us this haunting, subdued performance. So out of all of his films, why is 1 Hour Photo one of my favorites? Let's get into it. So 1 Hour Photo is a disturbing story following a personality that is not uncommon of real, unsuspecting people out there in the world. Sometimes the more polite, reserved types can have a much more frightening mindset than anyone could have imagined. And the family Cy is obsessed with is the Yorkins, a family of three. And despite this film taking its time building this character and uncovering his mindset and reasons for why he is doing all of this, there was never really a dull moment for me. And I'll go ahead and start spoilers, to be honest, as I wouldn't want to give too much away as far as specifics. So this is a must-watch if you enjoy psychological thrillers. Many films have focused on the victims of these stalkers, killers, or just generally sketchy people, and it was compelling to kind of see the daily life of the opposite point of view. So, now, be aware of spoilers. And I mentioned before how narration doesn't always work for me in many films, just kind of comes across kind of corny. But in this case, I love Cy's narration we get throughout. It finds a way to give us more insight into Cy's mental state and how he views the world. Like in the beginning, he takes his job and presents the importance of cameras and how they mold a story into whatever people want. And you would never know what a family might be going through because of all most people see is their perfect, happy family photos. And people don't often take pictures of things that they want to block out and forget. And this is relevant not only to his realization of the secrets of this family, but also this is still very relevant today with people with their cameras, phones, most notably how they handle it on social media. So with Cy, he is immensely knowledgeable of the surface level basics of this family just by mostly talking to the wife and son, named Nina and Jake. And he memorizes their address, Jake's birthday, takes note of the book Nina has been reading in her purse, and you can tell that Nina seems to have a strange feeling at times, but just kind of brushes it off due to his gentle and kind demeanor. And it even looks innocent to us at first until Cy gets home, and has an entire fucking wall of family photos that Cy kind of snuck out of the Yorkins' pile over the years. And nicely interwoven with this reveal is Nina and Jake having a conversation where Jake is just genuinely, innocently concerned that Cy is sad because he doesn't appear to have any friends. It's also revealed that Nina and her husband Will, this photogenic power couple, their marriage is kinda shit. And home life is not picture perfect in the slightest, with the heated argument we are introduced to, where Will is called emotionally neglectful, and then Will in turn ridicules Nina for spending so much money. And Will is often at work outside of normal hours and is constantly missing those important life events of Nina and Jake. So Sai has his own problems, of course, as he is constantly on the shit list at work due to his frequent bouts of zoning out, and also snapping up customers when frustrated. And Sai at one point also appears to enter the Yorkins' house fairly early on. He snoops, takes a fat shit in their toilet, comments on Jake's messy room as a good imaginary uncle should do, and even enjoys some football and beer. And the Yorkins return and treat him like it's normal, even calling him Uncle Sai. But then it makes that disturbing cut to Sai sitting outside in his car across the street from the Yorkins' place. So we see that he just daydreamed all of that, his post-work activity for the day. And this is a great scene to highlight how dangerous this is getting, and he is starting to take more and more risk and falling much deeper and deeper into all of this. And another layer of possibility is added. There's also a question of how much of what we're seeing is real versus what is all in his head. So I like that doubt that this scene created. So Sai becomes directly involved with them outside of work. He'll be the lone supporter in the stands watching Jake play soccer, and not watching Jake play soccer at his games where other parents are. He is watching and cheering him on all alone in the stands at his practices. And then on top of that, he also runs into Nina at the mall. It also makes a show, of course, of reading that same book that she's been reading. And Nina even takes note of how far away he is from home and how out of the way the mall is from where he supposedly lives. But she still just kind of blocks it out. And he gets sloppier and sloppier as all the distraction costs him his job due to his increasing lack of focus at work. So his only other passion is now stripped away. That's not good. And he also starts to feel new feelings as he discovers Maya, another customer he sees, has a photo of her kissing Will Yorkin. And he is angry and just slides the picture into Nina and Jake's stack just casually, and then follows them home in his car and catches their reaction to the discovery. And of course this leads him to flip another switch in his mind as he becomes angry as he spies on their family dinner that night, where Nina just does not bring up the affair. Carry on as usual. And I just have to stop again for a second to give props again to Williams' performance. Impressive doesn't even begin to describe what he accomplished with his role. His subtle shifts in moods and facial expressions, and just how he interacts with different people with different tones and personality traits. And he was this masterful comedian, but really bodied these types of roles when he took them, just showing how dedicated he truly was to his craft. Even if he was full of jokes behind the scenes, he really zoned in when the time came for it. Jack Nicholson, I read, also almost took this role, which would have given this film a different type of charm for sure, and it may have been even still a good film. But as far as what I think Sai needed to be as a character, I think Williams was much more equipped, especially to take on the more seemingly docile side of Sai. But moving on, I don't usually enjoy dream sequences in films very often, unless the film is, like, revolving around dreams, but I didn't mind this one. Sai's blood-red eyes as he stands in the middle of a white, empty space, and they really had fun with color as a motif throughout, but here, the red, of course, was, obviously representation of his growing frustration and anger with his fantasy of this family just crumbling around him. Then that with the white emptiness highlighting his loneliness and the loss that he is feeling, with that facade of this family being exposed for what it truly is. So there's no more boundaries, no more caution. He essentially threatens his old boss and his family as a final fuck you, and this finale is just haunting from the hotel scene through the credits beginning to roll. So he tricks Will and Maya, who are having another session in a hotel, and he works his way into the room. He pulls a knife on them and takes pictures of them while they're naked. He tries to get Maya to perform sexual acts on Will. And the oddest thing about all of this, not that anything is normal here, but the oddest thing about this is the bizarre comments he is making throughout that seem to be out of left field at first, but then you kind of notice it sounds like he's maybe quoting somebody, but we'll get to that. But he is caught and arrested. The knife was clean. He had no intention of using it. It was just for authority in the moment. And there was actually no film in the camera when he took pictures of Will and Maya. And this was done intentionally. The film they do find was only of random hotel room items in Sai's room. And this was a well done turn of events. Sai was creepy for sure. Didn't seem particularly dangerous at first, but we still just never knew how capable he was or how far he's willing to go. And we finally found that out here. And this type of behavior usually stems from somewhere. So with this following police interrogation, we get to hear about it. And Williams once again delivers this harrowing monologue. He doesn't directly discuss his past, but he might as well have. He directs his comments at the detective saying that, he's probably a good father. He probably doesn't make his children do things children shouldn't be doing, while telling them it's just pretend. And with this, and the abrasive comments that he shouted at Will and Maya, it is now much easier to piece together his childhood trauma from likely child pornography and sexual assault. And he feels betrayed by his own father, who was the cause of this trauma. And the Yorkins at first were that epitome of the harmonious family that he always wanted. So with all the problems that arose between them, so he once again felt betrayed as the image of what he desired was destroyed. So he found a hurtful and unhealthy way to confront that terrible past. And the detective is at a loss and lets Sai even keep the pictures he took at his request. And again, it was just the pictures of the random hotel items that he snapped. And before the credits, we do see a odd photo of Sai in like a family photo with the Yorkins. And some people seem to find this a bit ambiguous. Some think it's still a dream in his mind, but some also theorize that he maybe, made amends with the Yorkins later, which I don't personally buy. Now, I don't buy this picture being real, but that's kind of up to each individual audience member, so make your choice. And this is one of the more memorable endings for a film for me. And let's be real for a second, Sai was not a good guy. You can be sympathetic, empathetic of his past, but not sympathetic or forgiving of his actions that was still very wrong, even though he was confronting two very wrong people. But he was absolutely troubled and crossed the line many times. And some people are born and grow up with malice in their hearts and just do bad things simply because they enjoy it. But in most cases, this evil, hostile behavior, these obsessions, they often stem from somewhere, again. Some abused children grow up and do amazing things and overcome their trauma, but I think it's safe to say that there are too many cases where this just isn't always the outcome. Sai could have still had his issues, but his childhood definitely made things worse. And again, not excusing him, just kind of putting things into perspective, and I think this movie does a good job of that with that reveal at the end. And to take a step back, all this underlying meaning is important to consider with the themes the film presents, but on the outside of that, this was honestly just a fantastic thriller. Tense and unpredictable, well acted, and there's no sure way, one scene to the next, just how far Sai would be willing to take these urges. Nina and Jake were very easy to like and feel sympathy for, and even feel heartache for. They did a really good job with those characters. So, just incredible writing all around. I'll give 1 Hour Photo an 8.5 out of 10. So despite the subject matter and the outcome of Robin Williams, it still was nice to see that he had his fun with this movie. He did a lot of comedic takes and antics behind the scenes, as he does with most films. And I'm also glad they gave him this role as Sai, and not the manager role, as they had considered. Of course, Gary Cole landed that role, and Gary Cole, he's just a fantastic, shitty boss. Just like Office Space. Speaking of, now seeing him in this role again, I really want to watch that again. This is a really boring fact about my boring office job, but my manager just bought me a much needed new stapler, and she intentionally got me a red Swingline stapler, like from Office Space. So, if nothing else, I've either got to rewatch that movie, or maybe I'll just YouTube all of Milton's scenes. Anyway, I'll think on that. Watch Office Space, watch 1 Hour Photo. But besides that, thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed this review. I have more on the way, so make sure you follow me on my social media, like, follow, subscribe, wherever you're listening. I'm also trying to make my way onto TikTok as well, to do some short movie reviews here and there. So wherever you're listening, I hope to see you next time on The Entertainment Room.